I'll build an emitter object out of polygons, and I'm going to use a sphere for my emission, and I'm going to move it in between the barrels, but I don't want the particles to emit in all 360 degrees of the sphere. Actually, I only want to use half the sphere, so I'm going to use the start V angle and take the start angle to something a little greater, say 95. So I'm only emitting particles in a hemispherical pattern above the ground. I don't need to worry about particles crashing through the ground and really just wasting a lot of processing power. So I'll name this my emitter object. And from here I'm going to create an emission. So with the polygon mesh selected, I'm going to simulate and create an ice tree on a point cloud using my surface, the provided surface. So I've got particles emitting now because I'm actually on frame 52 of the simulation. And with the point cloud selected, I'm going to open an ice tree by pressing Alt-9. And the first thing I'm going to look at controlling is the rate. At the moment, rate is a single scalar value of 100 particles per second. I want to emit a number of particles and then cut them off after the initial emission. I'm trying to simulate the initial creation of a massive amount of energy, burning through that energy very quickly, and then dying off. So I don't want particles emitting for more than about maybe 10 frames. So to control the rate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the current frame and I'm going to modify the rate coming out of the emission per frame using a function curve node. If I have a look under time nodes, I can get the current time. So if I look under my conditionals, well, I don't want to test the current time, sorry, I want to actually get the current time. So let me go under current time, there we go, and I'm going to run it through a function curve. So if I look under the tools and under math, I'll find a function curve node. And the function curve node just allows me to modulate a value coming in on the horizontal axis and change its values using the vertical axis. So I'll use this to drive my rate. First of all, I'm going to set up the emission that I'd like. So I'm going to use 0 to 1 to represent the length of my scene. And I'm going to insert an additional keyframe by pressing Shift-E and middle-clicking. Well, let me actually just select the curve first, Shift-E, and then middle-click to drop in a keyframe. I'll press spacebar a couple times to get back to a curve and key select mode. So now I just have to go in and set the values of this keyframe. If I right-click on the key and access the key properties, I can set the value of that key. So I can set the frame to be about 0.1. I really want the particles to be emitted en masse almost the instant after they're born or after the first frame. So I'm going to allow for about 2,500 particles to grow at the first tenth of the simulation. So if I press play, I get particles being emitted, and they keep on being emitted at this point because I haven't actually set the value of the last point here. So if I actually take the 2,500 particle rate, I'm going to move it a little closer to the emission point at frame 0, and I'm going to move the start frame, or the end frame, sorry, back. So I'm getting a quick spike in emission, followed by a taper off. Oh, of course, it would help to plug in your effect. So there we go. So I'm getting quick emission and then a die-off. And the reason I was a little surprised there is because I didn't expect to have to move the fall-off quite so close to the beginning frame. So there we go. So the more I give this in terms of separation between 0 and 1, the more particles I'm going to emit before they're cut off completely. I can even use the function curve handles to extend how long particles are emitted for. So it gives me a way of increasing the number of particles emitted for my explosion. So I think I'm going to go with something like that. That looks like a pretty decent initial hemispherical blast. I'll cut them off a little quicker. Let's see how that works. Nope, actually I like it the other way around. Perfect. That'll work just fine for me. Okay, let's move on.